Tayo pa lang may problema. I don't care.
Break it already or what?
What came on?
It's a Darrow magazine.
Huh? Oh, it's one of the China ones.
No, next
So,
Oh, really? Everything from there is in China.
I'll bring you the other one. I bought two, but I brought you like a boy color. I'm gonna bring you the bright pink one.
you said it was up to me.
Which China is
You're always dying. You're a quarter dead already.
But there's one different
You
one.
said you're a quarter dead.
It probably has the same thing.
You're a quarter
Put it in
dead.
my backpack.
I was seeing ICF, I was thinking the PTA one.
Oh, the ICF model. You have 5-1.
Hmm? 5-1.
That model. The other model was good.
The one that.
Why?
Maybe Darrow.
Yeah. And then we saw it on procedures.
Jay, change your part. See? He always has passion.
Okay. I think this is simple enough. You guys should be able to pick it up pretty fast. There's only 2 rules to this. Yannet diagrams is a way for you to reason out how does the water move, what direction does the water move in and out of the cell, and how does it affect osmolarity inside and outside of the cell. Okay? So, 2 simple, very, very simple rules you need to know. First rule is, all volume disturbances originate in the extracellular fluid. The extracellular fluid compartment changes first. Okay? So extracellular fluid compartment, remember that includes intravascular, your plasma, inside your blood vessels, interstitial, in between your cells. Okay? Second rule, any changes that occur in the intracellular fluid compartment is in response to the changes that occur in the extracellular fluid compartment. Okay, and again, that diagram looks like, here's our box. This is all of the fluid in your body. This is the intracellular fluid compartment, most water inside the cell. And this is the extracellular fluid compartment, everything outside of the cell. Okay. The axes that you need to keep track of are the X and Y axes. Okay, the vertical axis deals with osmolarity. Okay, so as osmolarity increases, you're going up. As osmolarity decreases, you're going down. Okay. The horizontal axis deals with volume. So this is volume inside the cell, ICF, volume outside the cell, PCF. As volume inside the cell increases, you go in this direction. As volume inside the cell decreases, you go in this direction. Okay. As volume outside the cell increases, you go in this direction. As volume outside the cell decreases, you go in this direction. Maybe another way of doing that is ICF, PCF. Okay. Simple enough?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so let's apply that. Let's say, here's our axis. Here's where we started out. Okay. If we end up drinking too much water, drink, right? Drink to the point where there's no more, you're so full, and you just continue drinking, okay? What changes first, fluid volume or fluid osmolarity?
Volume.
Volume. You drink the water in, the water travels down the esophagus to your stomach. At the level of the small intestines, it gets absorbed into your bloodstream, so it increases your volume in your bloodstream. Is it volume of the extracellular fluid compartment or the intracellular fluid compartment? Extracellular fluid compartment. The bloodstream is extracellular. Will the volume, so that means that this line here, which tells you where the volume is in the extracellular fluid compartment, will shift. Will it shift to the right or to the left?
To the right.
It will shift to the right. As you add water to your bloodstream, does your bloodstream become more dilute or more concentrated?
Dilute.
More dilute. So the osmolarity in the bloodstream changes. Which way will it change, up or down? It will go down because you become more dilute.
What's dilute again? Dilute.
More water, less oil.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Now, imagine this line, because this is intracellular fluid compartment, ICF, and this is extracellular fluid compartment. So imagine this line is sort of like your cell membrane, okay? Your solutes are trapped outside the cell or inside the cell. They can't move. Only water can move. Which way will the water move? If the osmolarity outside of the cell looks like this, and the osmolarity inside the cell looks like this.
The water will move to ICF.
What did you say? I hear it wants to go extracellular. What did you say?
It was supposed to go from high to low, so it would go to the ICF.
Right,
Yeah,
water
water
will
is gonna
move
go to
from
the
where
left.
there's low osmolarity to where there's high osmolarity
Right,
because
so
of the
to
osmotic
ICF.
pressure. So water will shift this way. Okay, so this is drinking too much water. Drinking too much water. Okay, water will shift this way. If water shifts this way, you lose water over here, and you gain water over here.
Yeah.
Okay? If you gain water over here, what will happen to the osmolarity inside the cell?
Will go down.
Oh, it's smaller.
I hear this, I hear this. What?
It will dilute it, so going
If
down.
you added water, but the solute stayed
Yeah,
the
it will
same,
dilute
it
it.
gets more dilute, it goes down. Okay?
And then
If you lost water on this side, what will happen to osmolarity?
It will go up.
It will go back up until it evens out. So you started out with the black box and you ended up with the green box.
Right.
Okay, so then you would name this. There's two things to name, okay? The first thing and the second thing. Osmolarity change. Osmolarity change. And always, this naming system only refers to what's in the extracellular fluid compartment. Osmolarity change in the extracellular fluid compartment, volume change in the extracellular fluid compartment. Okay, if the osmolarity went up, you would call it hyperosmotic.
Makes sense.
If the osmolarity went down, you would call it hypoosmotic. If the osmolarity did not change,
I see.
you would call it isoosmotic. Okay? Now in terms of volume, and we're only focused on, when you're naming, you're only focused on the extracellular fluid compartment. If the volume goes up, you call it an expansion. If the volume goes down, you call it a contraction.
This one doesn't. It's not on the slides.
I don't know. I haven't
So
even
if I
looked
were
at
to
the
ask you, the person has been drinking way too much water, more than they need, what is their status? You would call it, which one would this be?
osmolarity change.
Osmolarity went from black to green. Hypoosmotic. Hypoosmotic. What about
Expansion.
volume? Volume expansion. So this person is in a state of hypoosmotic expansion.
Got it.
What that means is, in their bloodstream, the volume has increased, so therefore what will happen to their blood pressure?
We go up.
In their bloodstream, the volume has increased, so their blood pressure will go up.
So this one's happening on the
In their
ICF.
cell, the volume has increased, so the cell will expand and potentially burst if it's too bad, if it's really, really extreme, right? And the osmolarity for both will be down. So intracellular osmolarity went down, extracellular osmolarity went down. Intracellular volume went up, extracellular volume went up. Okay? The person is in hypoosmotic expansion. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Was there a hand up?
So this one is gonna be on the ICF, right?
No.
On
wait.
both.
No. So,
Oh.
both, so,
Okay.
they brought a lot of water into their body. The water redistributed itself, so a lot of the water will end up in the bloodstream and a lot of the water will end up in the cell. So both their bloodstream and their cell will expand.
Also, you're measuring both.
Right, but increased pressure in both,
But if
okay?
you're naming it, it's on, you're only referring to
volume
that.
happen first and then.
Oh, for the
osmotic
If you're naming it.
happens after.
Fun.
In
That
this
one
scenario,
says
yes.
hypoosmotic
In this
expansion,
scenario,
we're only referring
okay.
to ECF.
The ICF. Oh.
Okay, another scenario, let's try the other side.
Oh, yeah. Wait, mapupunta muna sa ICF.
Let's say the person has been doing a huge marathon. Big marathon, sweat too much. Excess sweating. Actually, we need to define some things. Let's define some things, okay? Just to remind ourselves, you guys remember tonicity? Hypertonic, hypotonic, isotonic. Tell me what is considered isotonic.
Same volume?
So, same concentration in a solution as would be found in your body, in your cell, right? So, saline-wise, what concentration would it be?
Isotonic.
0.9.
0.85%, which is rounded up to 0.9%.
Oh.
Normal saline. Normal saline.
Yeah, more.
Normal saline is 0.9% salt water. Okay. Salt water. Anything low, hypotonic would be anything lower than 0.85% salt water. Right? Anything higher than 0.9% salt water
Then the salt and H2.
would be hypertonic. Normal water would be what?
Hypo.
Just water, tap water.
Maybe hypo.
Hypo.
Yeah.
Water would be hypotonic. Distilled water is hypotonic. Okay. Blood, what would blood be? I hear hyper blood. Blood is actually isotonic.
Oh.
If you vomit, you think that, what is that? What's in the vomit? What would you have? I hear hypertonic, I hear isotonic, it's actually generally isotonic. Diarrhea, what's in the diarrhea?
Water.
So I hear water, but is it hyper, hypo, or iso?
Not really hyper. No, hypo.
I hear hyper, hypo, iso. Generally speaking, it's iso.
Anything from your body is iso?
So those are some conditions, you just need to remember that, just keep that in mind, okay? Sweat, what was sweat?
That's hypo.
Remember we said sweat was half the concentration of solutes as in the plasma, so sweat would be considered hypo. Okay. These are hypo, these are iso, and these is hyper. Okay? So if the person is sweating excessively, this is where they started out. Which side changes first? Extracellular
Volume.
changes first, okay? So does volume change first or osmolarity change first? So you're losing volume and, so you're losing water as well as electrolytes, right? They both change at the same time. How do they change? So let's start with volume. How does volume change?
Down.
Volume went down, so you're going in this direction. What about osmolarity? You lose osmolarity, but how much osmolarity are you losing?
Half.
I mean, you're losing electrolyte, but how much electrolyte?
Only half of that.
Only half of what
That
was in, so do you lose more water or more solute?
More water.
More water, so what would happen to solute? It's gonna go up. Solute left over will be higher than before,
Oh, yeah, because you're losing more water.
right? Because it's a hypotonic solution that you're losing.
Makeshift.
How will the water shift? Will there be a water shift?
Yeah,
Water will shift in what direction?
ICF to ECF, right? Right?
I hear ICF to ECF. Here's ICF, here's ECF. Which way will water move?
To the ECF.
I see it lower.
It's gonna move from where there's lower osmolarity to where there's higher osmolarity. Water moves to
ICF
where
to
there's
ECF.
higher solute
I
concentration.
see it easier.
So water's gonna shift this way. Okay? If water shifts this way, you lose volume here, and you gain volume here. Okay? How will the osmolarity in the ICF change if you lost water? Only water's leaving.
Increase?
Osmolarity goes up. Okay. How will the osmolarity in the ECF change if you gain some water?
Will go down.
It's going to dilute. It's going to go down until it meets, until it balances out. Are we talking about hydrostatic pressure or osmotic pressure here, guys? Osmotic pressure. We're talking about osmotic pressure, right? Solutes drawing water towards it. Okay. So if a person is sweating excessively, what is their status? What's their water status?
Hyperosmotic.
Hyperosmotic.
Contraction.
Yeah, contraction.
No.
No.
Oh, contraction.
Contraction. You started with the black and
Hyperosmotic
you ended with the green.
One more time.
Contraction.
Hyperosmotic is
The
the
wall went down because it started with the black.
So you lost.
Oh,
You lost hypotonic solution, and you ended up with a hyperosmotic contraction. So do you think the person's blood pressure went up or down? Potentially. Potentially went down, depending on how much fluid they lost, right? Potentially went down. The cell, what can you say about the volume in the cell? The cell became dehydrated. It lost water. The cell became dehydrated. So not only do you lose fluid from your plasma, so your blood pressure potentially can drop, but your cell became dehydrated because it lost water and the volume went down.
Makes sense.
And your intracellular osmolarity went up, and your extracellular osmolarity went up. Right? You always compare what you started
Black
out
to
with
green.
and what you ended up with. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's try something else. How about if you've been eating a lot of potato chips and salty pretzels? You've just been eating a lot of salt, okay?
That's how we are now.
French fries, whatever.
That's how we
Okay,
are
lots
now.
of salt.
Stress eating.
So high salt diet.
High salt. Okay. We got this, guys.
ICF, ECF. What changes first?
Osmolarity in the ECF.
Osmolarity in which part?
In ECF.
In ECF. Will it go up or down? Go up, because we ate a lot of salt. The salt absorbed into our bloodstream at the level of the small intestine. You ended up with more salt in the bloodstream, so osmolarity went up. Okay.
Water would go down.
Which is there a change in volume initially?
No.
No, because you're just taking in salt, right? Will there be a shift in water?
Yes.
Yes, which way will the water shift?
From ICF to ECF.
It's gonna go from ICF to ECF, from low osmolarity to high osmolarity, which means the volume in the ICF goes down and the volume in the ECF goes up. How will that affect your ICF osmolarity?
It will go down.
No, it will go up because we're losing water.
You lost water, so the cell will become more concentrated. Osmolarity goes up. Okay, how will the osmolarity in the ECF change?
It will go up. It will balance it out.
Because you added water, so the osmolarity becomes more dilute. So the osmolarity will come down
From the red.
until it
Balances
normalizes.
out.
What is our status? What's the water status here?
Hyperosmotic expansion.
Hyperosmotic expansion. So if you eat a high salt diet, your cells get dehydrated, but your blood pressure goes up, right? Your blood pressure goes up. Let's say you got into a car accident, nicked a vessel, and you're hemorrhaging out.
Oh, you're still alive. You're still alive, baby? Konti na lang, bes. Kapit lang.
ICF, ECF.
ECF will go
So
down. The volume would go down.
volume would go down to where first?
ECF.
ECF, so volume would go down. How will that affect osmolarity?
Also go down.
Osmolarity will go down? Osmolarity will go up?
No, because you're losing blood, so you're losing both of
What
them.
sort of solution is blood?
Isotonic. So the same.
Isotonic, so
You're
what
losing the
happens to
same
osmolarity?
Nothing.
Nothing. So this
Oh.
will look like this. Will
Makes
there be a
sense.
shift in water?
No. No.
Water, will there be a shift in water in and out of the cell?
No.
Probably not, because the osmolarity outside the cell is equal to the osmolarity inside the cell, so there's no shift in water. So therefore, you end up like this. Okay, so what is the person's status? Isoosmotic contraction. Okay. Will their blood pressure change?
Yes.
Yes. How will the blood pressure change?
Down.
Down. So you'll have a drop in blood pressure. So if you have a really severe drop in blood pressure, you're not getting enough blood to your brain, you're not getting enough blood to your heart, you're not getting enough blood to your kidneys. How do we change this? If they end up in the hospital, what would we do? Give them fluids. What fluid would best help this person?
Saline.
Saline. What sort of saline? Isotonic saline. If you give them hypotonic saline, okay, so isotonic saline. Why isotonic saline, first of all?
It's the same. It's the same
It
as the
won't
blood.
change the osmolarity, it will just increase the volume in the bloodstream, right? But if you gave them hypotonic saline, what might happen? Let's start from here, okay? You're here, and let's say this person now is given should we say hypotonic?
Hyper.
Let's say we gave the person hypotonic saline.
Volume gonna go up.
What would happen?
The volume's gonna go up.
The volume's gonna go up, so volume goes this way.
And then the
Osmolarity
osmolarity goes down.
The osmolarity goes down. And then how will the water shift?
It will shift from ECF to ICF.
It will shift from ECF to ICF.
Low to high.
Get more water now.
And then what will happen to osmolarity in the cell?
It
It
will
will go
decrease.
down.
Decrease the volume.
And what will happen to the osmolarity inside the extracellular compartment? It'll go up, right? So,
Oh, I just got confused. That one confused me.
Wait, so you said for hypotonic saline, ECF, the volume of an ECF increases?
So, this is a little confusing, let's just draw from normal, okay? Let's say the
Yes,
person,
please.
let's say the person's normal here. Okay? And you give them a hypotonic saline. So you give them hypotonic saline, the volume increases, but the osmolarity goes down. Because you gave them more water than salt, right? And since the water went down, the water that you gave them will shift in this direction. So some of this water will move this way. The osmolarity over here would go down because you added water into the cell. The osmolarity over here will go up. Right? So you would end up with lower osmolarity inside and outside of the cell than you started out with. And you needed to be balanced, osmolarity, right? And you'd end up with more water in the bloodstream, which is what you needed in this person who was hypotensive, but you'd end up with more water in your cell as well, which could theoretically burst your cells. Right? We don't want to burst any cells, especially your red blood cells can lyse a bit. Right? Does that make sense? Yes.
So do you never want to see going outside the intracellular fluid, right? Or
So you only give a person hypotonic solution if they're severely dehydrated to the point where it's going to cause them like damage to their nervous system and other things. Okay. So in like emergency cases where if you don't change their osmolarity, it's gonna affect them. Otherwise, if you can, you always give them normal saline, unless you're actually trying to change the osmolarity itself. Okay. Another scenario. I'm gonna try the other side. Let's say the person has that condition that you guys learned about last week.
No, that's IADH.
Also, SIADH. I guess want some vegetables.
Okay, so what
According
was
to the cancer
SIADH?
research, you need to eat more vegetables.
Too much ADH. So
Alright,
syndrome of inappropriate ADH. This person has excessive ADH levels. Okay, too much ADH, I heard, means too much water retention. So changes occur first in which compartment?
Volume.
The
ECF.
ECF, volume or osmolarity?
Volume.
Volume goes up or down?
Goes
Up.
Volume goes up, so this goes up. How does that affect osmolarity?
Goes down.
Osmolarity goes down. Which way will water shift?
From
From ECF to ICF.
Water will shift from ECF to ICF. Okay. So therefore, water leaves this area and increases in this area. How will the osmolarity in the ICF change?
Go down.
It will go down. How does the osmolarity on
Will
the
go
ECF
up.
change?
We'll go up.
It goes back up. What is this person's status?
Hypo. The normal is black, right? So hypoosmotic, osmotic, expansion.
Expansion.
turn my stuff in.
Which one? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't turned in the lab yet.
Like the law.
What? Any questions so far?
Nope.
Okay. So intracellular volume goes up or down? What was that?
Get up.
Intracellular volume.
Up.
Intracellular volume.
In that?
On that one?
Up.
Oh,
Intracellular volume goes up. Intracellular osmolarity goes up.
Went
or
down.
goes down.
Goes down. Extracellular volume goes
Goes down.
Up.
up.
Oh, up.
Extracellular volume went up. Extracellular osmolarity went
Down.
down. Extracellular osmolarity went from black to green, went down, okay? Let's say the person has a condition called Addison's.
Oh shoot.
What's Addison?
Who here knows what Addison's
I got it wrong. That's all I know.
That's hypothyroidism?
The white.
Is that hypo or hyper?
This is an adrenal insufficiency.
Not enough aldosterone.
We just had a test on that. Forgot already.
I got it wrong.
Okay, so there's not enough aldosterone. Not enough aldosterone.
Oh, so low osmotic.
Low sodium retention.
So low osmotic.
Low sodium retention.
So what does that do?
Low osmotic.
ECF or ICF first?
ECF.
ECF.
Osmolarity.
Osmolarity or volume first?
Osmolarity.
Osmolarity. So osmolarity goes up or down?
Down.
Down. Not enough sodium retention, osmolarity goes down. Okay, does the volume change initially?
No.
No. So will water shift?
Shouldn't.
Does
Yes.
water
Yes.
shift across the
Yes.
membrane?
From
Yes.
ICF to
Yes.
Which way will the water shift?
ECF to ICF.
It's gonna go from low osmolarity to high
ECF to
osmolarity.
ICF.
Go towards ICF, okay? If it goes towards ICF, the volume over here goes down, the volume over here goes up. How will the osmolarity inside the cell change?
Down.
It's gonna go down. How will the osmolarity inside the extracellular compartment change? It'll come back up. What's this person's condition?
Hypoosmotic expansion. Oh no, contraction.
Osmotic
Contraction.
Intracellular volume goes up or down?
Up.
Intracellular volume
Up.
goes up. Extracellular volume
Down.
goes
Down.
down. Intracellular osmolarity
Down.
Down.
goes down. Extracellular osmolarity
Down.
goes down.
Baby,
Any questions?
so far so good.
Right? So you should try, what you could do is you could play around with it. You should try something like, okay, what if the person had massive diarrhea, right? They had massive diarrhea, something happened, right? Then they drank a lot of water. What happens then, right? Then they end up in the hospital, what might you be able to do to help them, right?
24
So you
hours
kind of
immersion.
play around with the scenarios to see if you do different things that makes multiple steps, how will the water shift in their body?
Just letting you know, we'll have pictures on the next quiz.
Oh, yeah.
We'll be drawing in the next quiz.
So what that means is I may give you a question, I may describe a scenario, I may ask you